Life does not spare anyone from pain, but it offers a choice. One path is lined with the sharp, deliberate pain of discipline. The other is paved with the slow, creeping ache of regret. The first one is uphill, exhausting, and requires focus. The second feels easy at first until you realize it circles back to disappointment. One pain is temporary and strengthening. The other lingers, echoing in your mind when it's too late to turn back. Discipline means paying in advance. You wake up when others sleep. You say no to comfort, to instant pleasure, to the easy way out. It's the price you pay for growth, mastery, and freedom. But what people often forget is that regret demands payment too, just later, and with interest. When dreams die unfulfilled, when potential is wasted, when time is lost, regret collects its debt. And its price is far more cruel. Regret doesn't shout, it whispers. It sneaks in during quiet moments. It looks like the job you didn't take, the passion you didn't follow, the discipline you abandoned too soon. It doesn't hurt all at once, it builds, and by the time you notice, it's already stolen years. You see others succeed and wonder, why not me? That's the sting of regret, the realization that you could have, but didn't. Many think of discipline as suffering or restriction, but true discipline is self-respect in action. It's honoring your potential, your time, and your goals. Discipline is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the internal agreement that says, I am capable of more, and I will act like it. Discipline hurts, yes, but only for a while. What it gives back, though, is permanent. Every day, whether you act or not, time passes, and time is the fairest judge of them all. It shows who trained and who watched, who built and who waited, who endured the discipline and who escaped into comfort. Years from now, your future self will meet the consequences of your current choices. Make sure it's a meeting you look forward to, not one you dread. You won't always feel inspired. So some days, you'll want to quit. That's when discipline must carry you. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. It's the habit of showing up even when you're tired, frustrated, or scared. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you become stronger. Every time you follow through, you prove to yourself, I can be trusted with my own future. There is no pain quite like realizing you were the only thing standing in your way. That your dreams didn't die because of others, but because of your refusal to stay consistent. Untapped potential becomes a heavy burden. You'll start to see people doing what you once dreamed of, and it'll burn inside. Not because they're lucky, but because you were capable too, and you chose regret over discipline. Greatness is not built in a single moment. It's built in silence, through daily discipline. It's waking up early when no one sees. Practicing when nobody claps. Showing up even when there's no applause. What you do consistently becomes who you are. And eventually, those small choices shape your legacy. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. 1 year of focused discipline can do more than a decade of half-hearted effort. Think about that. If you truly locked in for 12 months, no excuses, no distractions, what could your life look like? Where could you be? Who could you become? Discipline may demand sacrifices now, but it gives you freedom later. Regret gives you nothing but the wish that you had started sooner. At the end of the day, the choice is always yours. Pain is unavoidable, but direction is not. Will you choose the temporary struggle that leads to strength, or the comfortable path that leads to emptiness? Choose discipline today and give your future self a gift. Or choose regret and leave them with a wound. The pain is coming either way. Let it be the kind that builds you. Discipline often begins in the quiet hours before the world stirs, before the noise begins. It's in those early mornings when your body screams to stay in bed, but your purpose whispers louder. The alarm clock becomes your first test of character, and every time you rise, you're not just starting your day, you're proving your dedication. While the world dreams, you're building. While others scroll, you sweat. The pain of discipline is not glamorous. It's lonely, tiring, and often thankless. But those early sacrifices build a foundation others won't see until it's too late for them to catch up. It doesn't hit right away. In fact, regret is often silent in its approach. But eventually, the realization dawns: you had chances. You had time. You had talent. But you gave it up piece by piece for the comfort of now. You'll look back on days, months, even years, and wonder how you let them slip away so easily. You'll remember the times you could have tried, could have pushed, could have grown, but chose to sit still instead. And in those moments, the weight of regret crushes not just your heart, but your identity. Because regret doesn't just remind you of what you lost, it reminds you of what you could have become. The world constantly tempts you with distractions, shortcuts, parties, drama, excuses. Saying no to those things doesn't just take willpower, it takes vision. The pain of discipline is social isolation. It's missing out so you can show up. It's watching others relax while you grind. Not because you enjoy the grind, but because you understand what it leads to. Discipline often looks like sacrifice in the eyes of others. But you know better, it's investment. You're not giving things up, you're trading them for something greater. That takes strength most people will never understand. There is nothing more painful than witnessing someone live your dream, not because they stole it, but because they earned what you abandoned. You see them rise, and it doesn't breed jealousy, it breeds sorrow. Because deep down, you know that could have been you. The only thing separating their reality from yours is the discipline you refused. The hours they spent building, you spent doubting. The effort they invested, you delayed. The pain of that realization cuts deeper than failure ever could, because it proves that your future was never stolen, it was surrendered. Discipline is often boring. It's doing the same positive actions, day after day, with no immediate reward. It's staying consistent when progress feels invisible. You'll question if it's working, if it's worth it, if you're wasting time. And yet, it's in that repetition that greatness is born. Every great athlete, artist, and creator knows this pain, the grind without glory, the sweat without applause. But they keep going, because the pain of repetition is still better than the pain of stagnation. And eventually, the results come not suddenly, but undeniably. Time is the one currency you can never earn back. And when you waste it, whether by avoiding growth, chasing distractions, or giving in to laziness, you pay a price you can't return. One day, you'll look at a calendar and realize that a whole year passed, and you're still in the same place. Worse, you'll feel it in your soul, that creeping sadness that says, I could have been so much further. That's the pain of regret. It doesn't demand much now, but it will take everything later. Your confidence, your peace, and your pride. There will be days when you feel completely alone in your journey, when no one claps, no one checks in, and no one understands the burden you carry. The pain of discipline is internal. It's the late nights, the tears behind closed doors, the quiet battles you never post about. But those storms, as dark as they feel, are forging your strength. And when the clouds clear and you finally arrive where you've been fighting to go, you'll realize that the pain didn't break you. It built you into someone unstoppable. When regret takes hold, it doesn't just affect your goals, it rewrites your self-image. You start to forget who you could have been. The confidence you once had fades. The ambition turns to bitterness. And slowly, you become a stranger to your own reflection. You ask questions like, what happened to me? And why didn't I try harder? It's not just about the lost opportunity, it's about the lost self. That's the true pain of regret, not missing a goal, but losing belief in your ability to achieve any at all. True discipline means leading yourself, even when there's no external pressure. It means creating your own deadlines, your own urgency, your own accountability. That kind of self-leadership is painful. It's easier to be told what to do, to follow someone else's structure. But if you want freedom real, lasting freedom, you must first master discipline. That means taking control of your time, your habits, and your mind. It means being your own coach, your own motivator, your own drill sergeant. And though that leadership is demanding, it is the foundation of every great life. Perhaps the deepest pain of all is this: to know you had the talent, the time, the tools, and still chose nothing. You had the chance to be more, to give more, to become more. But you ignored it. You waited, you hesitated, and now the opportunity is gone. You see younger versions of yourself taking the leaps you didn't. You feel the weight of wasted gifts, of dormant purpose. That regret is unbearable because it's not just about failure, it's about potential unfulfilled. And that is a pain that echoes far beyond today. In the beginning, discipline is lonely. You're the only one who sees the vision, the only one who believes it's possible. Friends may question you, family might not understand, and the world offers no validation. But still you walk, you build, you train in silence. The pain of those solitary steps is real, but so is the transformation. Every lonely decision, every quiet sacrifice builds the confidence that says, I don't need approval to grow, because by the time they believe in you, you'll already believe in yourself. How many dreams die while waiting for someone to say, you're ready? Regret is the sting that comes when you realize you didn't need anyone's permission but your own. You waited for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect approval, but none of it ever came. Now, looking back, you see it clearly. The gate was always open, you just never walked through. And that missed moment becomes a scar you carry long after the door has closed. Discipline often demands blind faith. You put in the work today with no guarantee of results tomorrow. You sacrifice pleasures, ignore distractions, and push your limits for a future that hasn't arrived. That's the pain, giving up what's easy now for what's meaningful later. But that's also the secret. Those who dare to believe in a future they can't see are the ones who eventually create it. And when it arrives, they stand taller because they know they earned every inch of it. Every one of us hears a voice deep down. It tells us what we're meant for, what we could become, what life we're capable of building. But comfort is seductive. It tells you the calling can wait. That voice grows quieter the more you ignore it. And one day, it's gone. Regret is what remains. It's the aching awareness that you silenced your own potential, not because you couldn't, but because you wouldn't. It hurts to give your all and still go unnoticed. While others get praise for shortcuts, for showing off, for doing the bare minimum, you stay focused. You grind in silence. You build without applause. That's discipline, continuing the work without needing the spotlight. And yes, it's painful, but it's also rare. And eventually, the world catches up. Because real results always outlast fake recognition. Nothing cuts deeper than seeing someone live your dream. You recognize every part of it, the stage, the success, the lifestyle. But it's not yours. It's theirs. And not because they're better than you, but because they were disciplined enough to chase it while you were still thinking about it. That's the cruel irony of regret. Watching others enjoy what you were perfectly capable of achieving, if only you had started. We often wait for a moment of clarity, a spark of genius, a burst of motivation. But discipline says, do it anyway. Success is built not on big moments, but on the small, repeated acts that most people avoid. It's eating right when no one's watching. It's practicing after you're tired. It's posting content when no one reacts. The pain of that repetition is real, but so is the transformation. And it always begins when you stop waiting and start showing up. In the moment, your excuses feel justified. You're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're not ready. But over time, those excuses become bricks. You carry them with you until your dreams are buried beneath them. Regret is realizing you were the one placing those bricks, one excuse at a time. And eventually, you see the truth. Excuses don't protect you. They trap you, and nothing hurts more than knowing you were the architect of your own cage. One of the hardest parts of staying disciplined is doing the right thing and seeing no results. No feedback, no growth, no change. It's maddening. But this is the testing ground of discipline. Can you persist when no one notices? Can you keep pushing when nothing improves? Most people quit here, but those who don't, they're the ones who break through. Because real growth happens underground, long before it breaks the surface. There comes a day when time no longer stretches endlessly in front of you. You start counting years instead of dreams. And suddenly, you realize most of what you were going to do never got done. Regret sharpens in those moments, not just because time is short, but because it was once long and you wasted it. You feel the finality. The opportunities that once waited for you no longer do, and all that's left is the question: what would my life look like if I had started when I said I would? Discipline often demands humility. It means admitting you don't know enough, aren't good enough yet. It means asking questions, taking feedback, and starting again when your pride says you shouldn't have to. That stings. But ego is the enemy of excellence, and discipline knows this. Growth requires surrender, surrendering your need to look good in order to actually become great. That's the kind of pain most people avoid. But those who embrace it, they rise higher than anyone ever expected. Every day, you influence someone. A friend, a sibling, a stranger watching in silence. Regret is knowing you could have been a light, someone who led by example, who inspired others to level up. But you chose comfort instead of courage. You chose to fit in when you were meant to stand out. And now, the people who needed your strength never saw it. That missed opportunity doesn't just hurt, it echoes, because leadership is not about fame, it's about responsibility. When you live with intention, you may become unpopular. You'll make choices others don't understand. You'll stop showing up to things that no longer serve you. And people might talk. They might pull away. Discipline demands that you stay rooted in your mission, even when it costs you approval. And yes, that isolation is painful. But staying true to your purpose always outlasts popularity, because one day, the same people who judged your discipline will wish they had your results. Fear makes decisions quietly. It disguises itself as logic, caution, or being realistic. But over time, it builds your life one compromise at a time. Regret comes when you finally wake up and realize this isn't the life you wanted. It's the one fear built for you. Every risk you avoided, every leap you didn't take, every door you didn't walk through, fear had the final say. And now you have to live with what it left you. Everywhere you look, someone is chasing fast pleasure likes, followers, money, validation. But discipline plays a different game. It invests. It waits. It builds slowly. And in a world that rewards speed, that kind of patience feels painful. You'll question your pace. You'll feel behind. But discipline knows fast is fragile. Slow is strong. When you build with patience, you build something that lasts. And that's a legacy, not just a moment. Some of the most painful regrets aren't from dreams that failed. They're from dreams that were almost real. You were right there, one email, 1 month, one brave move away. But you paused. You talked yourself out of it. You told yourself tomorrow. And now that window has closed. That almost will haunt you more than any failure. Because deep down, you know, you had it in your hands and you let it go. When you start, no one sees the vision but you. You'll work for months or even years without applause. The world may question your dream, even laugh at it, and the silence hurts. But discipline isn't about being seen. It's about being consistent. It's about creating because it matters, not because it gets attention. And eventually, your results will speak so loudly, the silence will turn into admiration. But only if you can endure it first. You scroll and you see it's someone doing exactly what you wanted to do. They started the channel, launched the business, built the platform. You feel it in your gut, not jealousy, but sorrow. Because it was your dream too. But they acted and you waited. They believed in themselves while you hesitated. That pain is heavy. Not because of their success, but because it's a mirror. A reminder that ideas don't matter. Execution does. Life will test you. People will let you down. Plans will crumble. And when chaos hits, discipline becomes your anchor. It means sticking to your goals when it feels like nothing else is working. That kind of focus, it's painful. Especially when your heart is heavy or your mind is tired. But discipline doesn't disappear in the storm, it digs deeper. And when the storm passes, it's the reason you're still standing. There's a unique kind of regret that comes from betraying yourself. You promised to chase your dreams, to break the cycle, to be different. But somewhere along the line, you gave in. You settled. You started sounding like the very people who doubted you. That realization that you became what you once feared is haunting, because it doesn't just cost you a dream. It costs you your identity, and reclaiming that starts with never choosing regret again. There will be days when you feel broken, mentally drained, emotionally numb, physically exhausted. Discipline doesn't ignore your pain, it simply refuses to let it win. It says, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present. It's the decision to take one more step when quitting would be easier. That's the pain of discipline, showing up for yourself when every part of you wants to disappear. But on the other side of that pain is pride. Not in the results, but in your resilience. Most people don't start when they should. They wait until life forces their hand. Until the weight of regret is already too heavy. Until health fades, time vanishes, relationships break. That's the sting of regret. It doesn't knock on the door gently. It slams into your life when it's almost too late. And then you realize all the moments you thought were too hard to start were actually the easiest it was ever going to be. Your greatest battles aren't with the world, they're with your own thoughts. Discipline is not just waking up early or working hard. It's learning to silence the doubts, fears, and temptations that live in your own mind. That inner voice, the one that says, you're not good enough, it's too late, you'll fail again. Discipline doesn't argue with it. It acts anyway. It moves through the noise. And that mental mastery, it hurts. But without it, your mission will never survive. You can fake success. You can wear the smile, show the highlights, post the filters. But deep down, you know when your life is hollow. Regret comes when you realize you lived for appearance, not purpose. You chased applause instead of passion. You chose what was accepted instead of what was authentic. And though the world claps, your soul stays silent. That's the pain of regret, the quiet knowing that you built a life that impresses everyone, except yourself. Discipline is saying no when your feelings scream yes. It's choosing study over scrolling, training over comfort, focus over distraction. Every decision feels small in the moment, but they add up to something massive. Because what you do repeatedly becomes your future. And while pleasure fades quickly, meaning endures, the pain of giving up what feels good now for what matters most later, That's the kind of pain that leads to purpose. Regret doesn't always come from laziness. Sometimes it comes from compromise, from slowly teaching yourself to accept just enough. At first, it's harmless. You adjust your dreams to fit your comfort. You settle for safe instead of striving for more. And over time, settling becomes normal. But one day it hits you. You had the ability to reach higher, but you stopped reaching. That realization is brutal. Because you can't undo the lessons you taught yourself about settling. We live in a world addicted to instant feedback. But greatness doesn't work that way. Discipline is planting seeds and not digging them up every day to check their growth. It's trusting that your effort is creating something real, even when there's no applause, no progress bar, no obvious result. That kind of trust takes strength, because the pain of working without reward is real, but so is the reward of working anyway. We all carry a vision of the person we could be. Stronger, smarter, braver, more fulfilled. And every time you ignore that calling, that vision dims. Regret is waking up one day and realizing the best version of you has become a ghost haunting your thoughts, showing up in dreams, reminding you of what could have been. You can't outrun that shadow, but you can choose to stop adding to it by acting now. When you commit to discipline, people will question you. Why are you working so hard? Why don't you come out? Who do you think you are? They won't see the vision. They won't understand the fire. That's part of the pain. You'll be doubted, mocked, even resented just for choosing growth. But let them misunderstand you, because the same people who once laughed will one day ask, how did you do it? Discipline is lonely in the beginning, but respected in the end. There comes a moment when the chances stop, when the window finally closes. And at that point, regret doesn't just hurt, it paralyzes. You remember the goals, the dreams, the promises you made to yourself. You remember every delay, every excuse, every fear. And now, the truth stands before you. There is no more later, no more second chance, no more runway. That pain is unbearable, because nothing haunts like the life you almost lived. We live in a world designed to steal your focused notifications, trends, endless noise. Discipline is resisting that pull every single day. It's shutting down the apps, closing the tabs, walking away from the chaos and walking toward your purpose. It hurts because distraction is addictive. It feels easier, safer, even more fun. But deep focus is rare now, and that's exactly why it's powerful. Every time you stay locked in while others wander, you're building something they'll one day wish they had. Your intuition whispered. Your heart nudged you. But the world was louder. Opinions, trends, pressure, comparison, it all blurred your vision. And now, regret sets in. Because you realize you followed the crowd instead of your calling. You listened to everyone else, but ignored the one voice that mattered most, your own. That's a pain that lasts. Because at the end of the day, you don't regret failing. You regret not following your truth. In the early days, you'll be in the shadows. While others chase clout, you'll chase craft. While they focus on image, you focus on impact. And the world may not notice at first. That silence can be painful. But discipline knows the spotlight fades fast if there's no substance behind it. What you're building is deeper, stronger, real. One day, when the noise fades, you'll still be standing because you built a foundation, not a facade. You'll see them out there, living bold, taking risks, owning the space you once dreamed of. And it'll hit you not because they're better than you, but because they believe sooner. They didn't wait for perfect. They didn't let fear win. And now they're living what you postponed. That regret runs deep, because it's not about what they did, it's about what you didn't do when you had the same chance. Sometimes the progress is so quiet, it feels like nothing is changing. No likes, no scale drop, no praise, and still discipline keeps you going. Because deep change happens beneath the surface. It's in your mindset, your character, your energy, and those things take time. Discipline means trusting the invisible, staying faithful to the habits, and showing up even when it seems like nothing's working. Until one day, it all clicks, and everyone calls it overnight success. You were stronger than you acted, smarter than you allowed, more capable than you ever proved, but you hid it, you waited, you played small. And now you look back and see the truth. The version of you that could have changed everything never got to live. That's the pain of regret, not just losing time, but knowing your greatest potential never got a chance to breathe. Before others join you, celebrate you, or support you, you'll carry the vision on your back. Alone, you'll talk about ideas no one understands yet. You'll take risks no one else is willing to. That isolation is heavy. But discipline keeps you going, because you don't need a crowd to begin unique conviction. And once the vision becomes real, the world catches up, but only if you were strong enough to carry it when it was just yours. Imagine the best version of you, the one with courage, discipline, purpose. Now imagine watching that version of you in someone else. Different name, different face, same dream. That's what regret feels like your destiny moved on without you. Because dreams don't wait forever. If you don't become the person you were meant to be, someone else will step into that story and live the life you left unwritten. We want results now, but mastery doesn't care about your timeline. Discipline is falling in love with the process, the daily actions, the repetitions, the grind. It's learning to value the journey more than the finish line. That's not easy. It hurts to wait, to not know when the payoff is coming. But the process builds patience, and patience builds power. And that's how real change happens, not in a sprint, but through sacred repetition. Freedom was waiting, freedom of time, of expression, of purpose. But you chose familiar routines, predictable outcomes, safe zones. You stayed where it felt secure instead of stepping into uncertainty. And now the future you once dreamed of is just that, a dream. Regret is realizing you stayed in the cage even when the door was open. Because freedom always asks for discomfort first. And if you don't accept that, comfort becomes your prison. You won't feel inspired every day. The energy will dip. The excitement will fade. And that's where discipline steps in, not with fireworks, but with follow-through. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation, it creates momentum. It says, whether I feel like it or not, I move. That decision feels heavy in the moment, but it's what separates wishful thinkers from actual builders. Because the ones who only work when they're inspired never finish anything. But the disciplined, they finish everything. There were days you knew what needed to be done, but your mood said no. Your energy said later. Your comfort said tomorrow. So you listened. And now, regret reminds you that your feelings were temporary, but the consequences became permanent. Regret hurts because you realize your destiny wasn't blocked by fate. It was blocked by emotions you should have mastered. You weren't lazy, you were just untrained. And now you're paying the price. There comes a moment when no one asks how you're doing. No more motivation videos. No more support. Just you and your mission. Discipline is choosing to rise anyway. Choosing to rebuild with no witnesses. Choosing to stand even when the ground feels shaky. That pain of being your own source of strength is real. But it's also what makes you unbreakable. Because if you can build yourself without applause, no one can take that version of you away. You asked for the door to open, and one day it did. But you weren't ready. You weren't prepared. You didn't act. And now, all you can do is watch it close again. That's a sharp pain, knowing the answer came, but you didn't recognize it because you weren't disciplined enough to stay ready. Regret teaches that opportunity doesn't wait for the perfect moment, it rewards preparation. And if you're not in motion when it arrives, it moves on. Discipline requires brutal honesty. It makes you confront the habits, relationships, excuses, and mindsets keeping you stuck. And it doesn't let you look away. That's painful. Because sometimes the obstacle isn't the world, it's your own patterns. But discipline doesn't point fingers. It takes responsibility. It says, this ends with me. And when you face the truth, even when it hurts, you reclaim the power to change your entire life. Time passes, calendars flip, but nothing changes because you didn't change. Regret builds with every repeated cycle. The same struggles, the same promises, the same unfinished goals. And one day you look around and realize it's not life that's keeping you stuck. It's the lack of discipline to break the pattern. Regret grows loudest when you realize the years kept moving, and you didn't. Your vision is sacred, but the world won't treat it that way. People will doubt it, minimize it, or try to reshape it to fit their comfort. Discipline means protecting it, locking in on it, refining it. That often means saying less, showing more, and doing the work in silence. It hurts to keep your dream guarded. But some dreams are too big to share too soon. Discipline teaches you to build quietly until the results make the noise. Jealousy doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it comes from the mirror. You imagine the person you'd be if you hadn't quit. If you had stuck to the routine. If you had kept pushing when it got hard. You don't envy someone else, you envy your own potential. That's a unique kind of pain, because you realize the version of you you're proud of was always within reach. You just didn't hold on long enough to meet them. Not everything that's available is aligned. Discipline is saying no to the good things, safe jobs, fast money, instant results, because they pull you off your path to something greater. That restraint hurts, especially when others are celebrating the same things you walked away from. But discipline sees what others don't. Short-term gain often costs long-term greatness. And greatness never comes to those who settle early. Deep down, you knew you had more to give. More fire, more effort, more potential, but you coasted. You got comfortable and good enough, and now regret whispers the question you can't silence. Why didn't you demand more from yourself? That pain stays with you. Because no one can push you harder than you were meant to push yourself. And knowing you had more but chose less, that's the kind of regret that echoes forever. There are no standing ovations during the grind. No cheerleaders when you wake up early. No trophy for staying late. Just the silence in your decision to show up again. That's the pain of discipline, doing what matters when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, and when no one understands. But those quiet days, they're what separate legends from spectators. You earn your future one uncelebrated day at a time. You had time, you had goals, but you gave your attention away to endless scrolling, empty conversations, and meaningless moments. Now, regret reminds you that attention is the foundation of your future. You didn't lack potential, you lacked focus. And now you carry the weight of what could have grown if you had just looked in the right direction at the right time and protected your focus like your future depended on it because it did. You'll be laughed at for working too hard, doubted for dreaming too big, misunderstood for moving in silence. But that's what building something real feels like. You're creating the life you can already see in your mind, and that's a lonely road. The pain comes from believing in something no one else believes in yet. But that belief, it's what makes visionaries different, because by the time they see it, you'll already be living it. Cared too much about what they'd say, about not looking stupid, about fitting in, And so you kept your mouth shut, your dreams small, and your actions safe. But now, years later, none of those opinions matter and your dream still haunts you. Regret is knowing you handed your future to people who weren't even thinking about you. And now you're stuck with the consequences of their comfort zones. There comes a moment when you have to get sick of your own story. Tired of explaining why it's not the right time. Tired of justifying why you haven't started. Discipline demands that you stop recycling the same excuses and do something about it. That change is uncomfortable. It forces you out of the waiting room and into the fire. But that's where growth happens, not in the comfort of explanation, but in the courage of execution. You watch someone step up, break through, speak truth, and every word hits you in the gut. Because it sounds like something you would have said, something you could have built. And now, as the applause fills the room, all you can do is wonder what might have happened if you had trusted your gift the way they trusted theirs. That's the pain of regret. Not envy, recognition of a version of you that never took the stage. We live in a time where everyone wants to be seen now, to go viral, to trend. But discipline plays the long game. It doesn't chase attention, it chases alignment. That means being okay with building behind the scenes, developing your voice, sharpening your message. It's not glamorous, it's slow. And that hurts when others get noticed while you get ignored. But discipline understands real value grows quietly until it can't be ignored any longer. You followed the rules, took the job, smiled for the pictures. But something feels wrong because none of it is yours. It's a life designed by expectations, not passion. Regret begins to stir when you realize you were building someone else's dream while your own collected dust. That pain doesn't scream, it simmers, it waits. Until one day you look around and wonder, when did I stop choosing me? Growth requires the death of old habits, limiting beliefs, fake identities. Discipline is the courage to let go of the version of you that feels safe but stagnant. And that's painful. Because even the old you had comfort, familiarity, and control. But the future you, they require risk. They demand expansion. And if you don't make room, you'll outgrow the life you refuse to leave behind. You weren't average. You weren't ordinary. You had fire, ideas, ambition, but you settled for comfort, for approval, for good enough. And now that fire is just smoke. Regret burns when you realize you never tested your limits. Never gave yourself the chance to see what could happen if you went all in. And now, the question remains, what would my life look like if I stopped settling and finally stepped into my full strength? Growth doesn't come gently. It asks you to shed old skin, sometimes even old relationships. Discipline is the painful choice to evolve even when the people around you don't. You'll outgrow rooms. You'll be misunderstood. You'll walk alone for a while. That hurts. But nothing is more costly than shrinking yourself to stay comfortable. The pain of discipline in these moments is a form of self-love. Because real growth doesn't just elevate your life, it demands a new version of you to live it. You wanted signs. You wanted support. You wanted someone to say, you've got this. But the world didn't show up. So you waited, and while you waited, time passed. Regret is the sting of realizing you didn't need anyone to believe in you, just needed you. You, the voice that should have been loudest was your own, but you silenced it. And now you finally understand, belief is not given. It's claimed. And it starts from within. Discipline means looking in the mirror and owning everything, your time, your energy, your results. It's realizing no one's coming to save you, no one owes you anything, and nothing changes until you do. That weight is heavy, but it's freeing. Because once you accept responsibility, you take back control. It hurts to face your own choices, but it hurts far more to keep blaming a world that moved on without you. You didn't fail because it was impossible. You failed because you stopped. You trained your mind that quitting was acceptable. And now, every challenge feels like a reason to run. Regret is realizing that every time you gave up, you were programming yourself to fear effort. That pain isn't just about lost goals, it's about the belief you shattered in yourself along the way, and reclaiming that belief takes more than words. It takes discipline. At first, discipline is a habit, then it becomes who you are. That transition is hard. You'll resist it, fight it, even resent it, because it changes everything. Discipline demands that you walk different, think different, act different. And when it becomes your identity, you can't hide in old excuses anymore. That hurts. But it also sets you free, because once discipline becomes your default, excellence becomes your outcome. You had the time, the opportunity, the window, but instead of building, you hesitated. You waited for more confidence, more clarity, more certainty. But doubt filled every empty space you left. Regret is what happens when you realize that time wasn't your enemy, doubt was. You didn't need more time. You needed more courage. And now that moment is gone, not because you weren't ready, but because you didn't act. Excuses sound noble. I don't want to fail. Now's not the right time. I'm just being realistic. But discipline sees through all of it. It tears down the stories you told yourself to justify playing small. And that hurts because once those walls fall, you're exposed. There's no one else to blame. Just you, your potential, and the work that's been waiting. Discipline doesn't destroy you, it destroys your limits. You missed a workout, skipped the project, broke the habit. That one bad day turned into a week, then a month, then a year. Regret is waking up to the realization that all you had to do was restart, but you didn't. You let guilt turn into surrender. You let a momentary setback become your new identity. And now you carry the pain of what could have been fixed in a day, but wasn't. You'll see people pass you, go viral, get rich, blow up overnight, and still you'll be grinding, quietly, consistently. That gap can mess with your mind, but discipline isn't about speed. It's about direction. The pain comes from watching others take shortcuts while you build real roots. But the truth is this: fast fame fades. True growth lasts. Stay patient. Your time is coming, and it'll be built on something real. You said you were done settling, done waiting, done breaking promises to yourself. But time passed, and you're still here. Still stuck in the same patterns, surrounded by the same energy, telling yourself the same lies. That's the pain of regret, watching yourself repeat the very cycles you promised to escape. And the worst part, you know exactly what it takes to change, you just haven't done it yet. If you don't learn to control your emotions, someone else will. If you don't set your standards, someone else will lower them. Discipline is painful because it puts you in charge of the one person you've avoided leading, yourself. It demands that you parent your own impulses, coach your own mind, and keep your own promises. That level of self-mastery is rare, but without it, the world will shape you into something far smaller than you were ever meant to be. You could have fought harder for your health, your gift, your goals, your peace. But you didn't. You hesitated. You tolerated. You avoided the confrontation. And now, regret walks with you as a reminder. Every battle you avoided became a prison you live in. That pain doesn't just sting, it suffocates. Because now you see how much of your life is the result of everything you chose not to fight for. Once you taste your own potential, you can't pretend mediocrity is acceptable anymore. Discipline is the choice to live aligned with that truth. To push past fine and reject good enough. That mindset costs you comfort, but it gives you clarity. You become someone who no longer accepts shortcuts, surface-level effort, or self-pity. That's painful at first, but eventually it becomes the reason you walk into every room already knowing you belong. You weren't just meant to win for yourself. You were meant to become an example. But now you see someone else falling into the same traps you once lived through, and you can't guide them. Because you never made it out. That pain is real. Because regret doesn't just take from your future, it steals your ability to light the way for others. You were supposed to break the cycle. Instead, you became part of it. You weren't just meant to win for yourself. You were meant to become an example. But now you see someone else falling into the same traps you once lived through, and you can't guide them. Because you never made it out. That pain is real. Because regret doesn't just take from your future, it steals your ability to light the way for others. You were supposed to break the cycle. Instead, you became part of it. Comfort tells you everything's okay when it's not. It convinces you that waiting is wise, that playing small is safe, and that trying later is still progress. But comfort is a liar, and regret is what wakes you up. When the illusion fades, you see the truth. Everything you wanted was just outside your comfort zone. And what held you back wasn't fear, it was believing the lie that you had time to waste. While others chase pleasure, you chase purpose. You give up hours, distractions, cravings, not because you hate life, but because you love your future. Discipline is the pain of doing what your future self will be grateful for. It's delayed joy, deferred rewards, quiet wins. But one day you'll wake up in a life you built brick by brick while the world was busy doing nothing. And in that moment, you'll know it was worth it. You finally got there, but the opportunity's gone. The job's filled, the door's closed, the timing's wrong. And now you know. It wasn't that the dream was impossible. It's that you didn't believe in it soon enough. Regret is being ready after it mattered. It's showing up late to a moment that only ever came once. And that moment now belongs to someone who believed earlier. Discipline gives you something that no shortcut ever will self-respect. You look at yourself and know, I showed up. I didn't quit. I became what I said I would. That reflection holds power. Because it's not about the external wins. It's about the internal pride of knowing you earned your own respect. That kind of peace, it's not bought. It's built. And it comes at the cost of every excuse you were strong enough to silence. This is the final pain, the one no one escapes. You sit with the clock almost out, and the question echoes, what if I had said yes? Yes to the dream. Yes to the risk. Yes to the version of yourself that scared you but called to you. Regret is not a punishment, it's a mirror. And when you reach the end, it won't be the things you did that haunt you. It'll be the life you could have lived if only you had said yes while there was still time.